Welcome back to Wrestling with Horror. My name is Andrew Dreamer. As always, I'm here to talk about professional wrestling, horror movies, and look at all the ways that they intersect, connect, and everything in between. That being said, we're going to be talking about a subgenre of horror today that is not particularly my favorite subgenre of horror. It's not going to be the first thing that I reach for when I'm looking for a movie on the shelf. But nonetheless, we're going to be talking about the found footage subgenre of horror. Now, obviously, the most well-known films in this subgenre are going to be things like Paranormal Activity or The Blair Witch Project, but we're not going to be talking about those. We're going to be talking about something that's a little lesser known, but something I think is actually exponentially better than both of those other films. That being said, we're going to be discussing House LLC today. It is written and directed by Stephen Cognetti, and it's the first part of a trilogy of films that he made over the course of a few years. And for me, this is what found footage should be. Now, it does hit some of the same beats that a lot of found footage movies hit, but where this one kind of sets itself apart and is unique is that a lot of the scares in this film, a lot of the way that it's shot, everything, it all feels very authentic to me. It feels genuinely scary and real, and this movie really is terrifying if, found footage is something that really just kind of gets under your skin. So this film is kind of shot documentary style. It, at the beginning, we're getting like these interviews of all these experts or journalists or, people like that talking about this incident that happened 5 years ago where this haunted house, this haunted attraction that was taking place, something malfunctioned. I put that in air quotes, malfunctioned, and killed 15 tour goers and staff of the haunted attraction. But these journalists and investigators, they don't think that we're getting the real story. They want to know what really happened inside that hotel. And I say hotel because the place where they set up their attraction was an abandoned hotel called the Abaddon Hotel, where the previous owner, Andrew Tully, actually hung himself back in the 1980s. Now, most of our film here takes place with the group of people setting up the haunted attraction. It is kind of intercut with the journalists and people like that being interviewed, and we're getting one of the crew being interviewed by this reporter named Diane. And the person that we're getting this interview of, her name is Sarah Havel, and she is the only survivor of the Hell House crew. But when we really kind of get into our story, we kick off with the Hell House crew, which includes Sarah, her boyfriend Alex, you have Paul, and Tony. And then that also includes a guy named Mac, who is Alex's best friend. They grew up together, and Mac kind of helps Alex run the business. Alex is the one in charge of everything, and he is taking them out of New York City, where they've held Hell House for several years, and now they're moving it to upstate New York, to this little town, and to the Abaddon Hotel. Obviously, they get to the Abaddon Hotel, and it is just completely destroyed, run down. Looks like it could fall apart at any second. You wouldn't want to be in there. You probably need some kind of respirator just to enter the dang thing. They stick it out. Alex convinces them all that it's going to work. They're going to have a good gate, and they're going to make a lot of money doing their show here. A few days later, they're working on things, and the cast for their show shows up. You got a few different people. You got this girl who's going to be in the basement. You have another guy named Joey who's going to be down in the basement dressed up as a clown. Here's where things start getting weird for our group. Weird things start happening, like the mannequins appearing out of nowhere, and the mannequins' heads are turning. Paul sees different things. Sarah is just weirdly affected by this place, and nobody can really explain it. Alex just brushes it all off. Matt kind of does the same thing, and there's even a scene towards the middle of the film where Paul gets woken up in the middle of the night, and things are just extremely strange. And they're looking for Sarah because they hear something, and they go and they find Sarah. It's Paul and Mac, and they discover her there, and then they turn a corner, and this mannequin that was in a completely different spot is just blocking their way. And then the piano starts playing, and then they just take off running. And then here's where I kind of have an issue with it, because I'm not going to lie, it's not perfect. Nothing's perfect in the movie world. There's always room for improvement, and this is kind of something that I had an issue with. it's when Mac sees all these things happen and then just brushes it off, doesn't really mention it again. He acts like Paul's crazy for thinking that something weird's going on in this hotel. And then Alex just keeps brushing it off over and over and over and over and over until one night Paul actually goes missing. And when Paul goes missing, Tony and Mac go looking for him. They hear some weird things down in the basement. They go there, and that's when you get this really creepy shot where they get scared. They go into this deep freeze, and then Tony kind of turns around, and all of the clown mannequins that are sitting in the floor down there, their heads turn, and they're just staring directly at him. And then they run out of there, and Tony starts believing what Paul said. They find Paul, but he's kind of comatose, like he's alive and awake, but he's not saying anything, and they take him to his bed, and that's where he stays for basically the rest of our movie until the last couple minutes. From here, it's time for the show to open. Everything seems set. They have a huge crowd waiting outside. It seems like it's all going to be great. They let everybody in. The show is going off without a hitch. And that's when a camera starts working. And you kind of get some of these, not really flashbacks, but kind of some things that you saw in some earlier footage, from the reporters and YouTube clips that people had uploaded from the show. Things like that. You start kind of putting some pieces together. Oh, this is how that timeline's working. So, a camera cuts out. The walkie-talkies aren't working. Alex is aggravated. They're all kind of on edge. Paul's still laying upstairs in his bed, face down, looking like a big ball of hair on a pillow because you can't see the rest of his body. And then you hear Mac trying to get a hold of Alex. He's saying, "Why is Joey running out of the basement? What happened? What happened?" And then that's kind of when we get the realization that there are some things down in the basement. There are these hooded figures. They're all dressed in black. The actress they had downstairs, she is screaming, "Please, this is not part of the show. Get me out of here. Help me, please." And then the figures appear, and everybody is, trampling as many people as they can just to get out, and they're all scared to death, as you would be in that situation. And that's when the figures take the girl. They take her, and she is dead at this point. And then Mac gets Sarah, and they run upstairs to try to find Alex. And that's when they find Alex hanging in the attic where they had their command center set up. And then Mac and Sarah get attacked by more of the hooded figures. That's when we cut back to Sarah being interviewed by Diane, the reporter. And, you kind of think, okay, well, maybe she got out. Maybe she just turned and ran, and she somehow made it out of the hotel. So after going through this entire interview, Sarah asks if she can kind of take a break. It's kind of getting hard for her to talk about some of this stuff. And she tells Diane that she's going to be staying in room 2C and to come find her in a little while. And I forgot to mention that she also brings a bunch of videotapes for the reporters to watch. Videotapes that Alex and his crew all took. Some of Paul's footage, some of the tour goers' footage. She has all these tapes. She gives them to the reporters. Diane gives them to one of her colleagues, Mitchell, to watch them. And at this point, Sarah, you kind of hear her mumble something after she leaves the frame, and she says, "You should really try to get into the hotel." And I guess that sticks with Diane because that's exactly what she tries to do. Her and her cameraman go. They leave Mitchell to watch the film, which, hindsight being 2020, probably should have stayed with Mitchell. It would have been a lot safer. And so they go downstairs to tell the front desk to, inform Sarah that they're going to be going out. And they find out that Sarah's not there. They don't even have a room 2C. So anyway, they go to the hotel. They break in. They start looking around. The cameraman is really freaked out. He wants to leave. But Diane decides to go upstairs and push on. And she looks down this hallway and she sees room 2C right there at the end of the hall. And of course, they open the door. There Sarah is sitting on the bed. They try to get her attention. She turns around. Her face is all messed up. And then the hooded figures appear around her, presumably killing Diane and her cameraman. And it's this point when we get to the end of our film. And the ending of this film shows Sarah running out of the house where she finally runs into Paul. Now, Paul is... something's off with the dude at this point. Obviously, he's been laying in bed for 3 days, getting ready for this opening, and he's not himself anymore, let's put it that way. And he essentially he hits Sarah in the head several times with this thing, and she gets dragged off screen. And then Paul picks up a piece of glass, he cuts his own throat, collapses to the floor, and that's where our film ends. Now, of course, the idea here was that Sarah actually was dead the whole time, and that really wasn't a live person giving Diane that interview, and she was trying to lure them to the hotel to get them. Now, there are a lot of things in this movie that don't necessarily make sense. There are a lot of little things like, why would Alex take his crew there? Why did he choose this place? Why were he and Mac arguing at the beginning of the film on the side of the road? There are a lot of little things like that that don't make sense in this film, but again, we have a trilogy. And it really feels like Stephen Cognetti planned this out meticulously. He made all these details fit perfectly together. You get more information in the second one, more information in the third one, and by the end of the third one, it just makes a really nice rounded picture of what this story was supposed to be. Really, I think having all three of these films is what makes me appreciate this first one even more. Obviously, I think the first one's my favorite out of all three of them. It's the best made. It looks the most real. It feels the most authentic. But having that completely rounded trilogy makes for a really fun time if you just want to sit down and watch three movies back to back. And if you get a chance to check out the director's cut of House LLC, I think it's available on YouTube. You should go check it out. Go check it out. It's actually interesting to see some of the things that the director added back into the film. There are, the one thing that sticks out to me is this shot where they use a Google Street View, and you can see Alex standing up on the balcony of the second floor of the hotel. But this is weeks, months before the crew even showed up at the hotel. So why was Alex there? Was it Alex? I don't know. But it's little things like that that really make me appreciate the director's cut, so definitely go check that out. Me and my brother actually watched this movie together quite a bit. He's the one that got me to watch it in the first place, and we both really, really like this movie. We like all three of them, but we both agree that this one is the best in the trilogy. So all of that being said, if you've seen this film, let me know what you think down below. Is this one your favorite in the trilogy, or do you prefer one of the other two? Let me know down below. And before I go, if you would like to save 20% on your order at Redcon1, right up here is going to be a discount code for you to use at checkout. It'll give you 20% off. Just type in Andrew Dreamer at checkout in the discount section, and you'll get 20% off your order. If you haven't hit subscribe already, go ahead and do that. It helps me out a whole lot. Lets me know that you're interested, that I'm doing something right. And something else, if there's something particular you want to see on the channel, let me know that down below as well. Hit the thumbs up button on the video. But I think that's all I got for you. So until next time, my name is Andrew Dreamer, and I will see you next time on Wrestling with Horror.